Hello, and welcome back to Daddy Dimes Radio. Today, we're going to be going over a lot of NBA stuff and then going over a little bit of the NHL Stanley Cup. But let's go ahead and dive it into, like always, the NBA at the beginning. And we got to review the Warriors winning in 6. They won the NBA championship. Steph Curry won MVP on last week's episode. The Warriors were up 3-2. The podcast was the day before Game 6, and I predicted Celtics to win Game 6, but then Warriors to win in 7. I was wrong about that. The Warriors were able to pull it off. Celtics, again, had way too many turnovers, and Al Horford tried to carry them back once again, and he made the lead much shorter as the Warriors were dominating in the second and third quarter. Horford led them back towards the end of the third, but Warriors held on in the fourth with a lot of clutch threes at the end from Wiggins and Curry. And now the hot topic after Steph has won his 4th ring and won his first finals MVP this year. Where does he rank now in the top 10? Before this championship, I'm just going to say he was not in my top 10. But let's go ahead and go over my top 10 now after that, which is going to be at number 10. Bill Russell, of course, has the most rings all time, but played in a completely different era where it was much easier to score. And even then, he did not score much. He was definitely a great defensive talent, but he also had all the rings he won, he was surrounded by talent as well. He didn't necessarily carry a team, which really none of these guys did. But then at number 9, I've got Shaq. Of course, some people think he's the most dominant player of all time, and definitely at points he was. But he never really got it done without Kobe, which of course was one of the greatest duos of all time. But just because of his dominance, he makes the top 10. But I'm not necessarily a huge fan of him as a player. Then at number 8, this is where we find Steph Curry, who before for me was probably around the 13th, 14th spot, kind of in the middle of the season. But he moved all the way up to 8th with that. Really, I just started seeing the impact he had a lot more now without Kevin Durant. And with Klay Thompson not being as good, Draymond Green not being as good. And of course, yeah, he's got younger guys now like Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole helping him out. But none of those guys are on the level of Kevin Durant. Then at number 7, I've got Kobe Bryant, who's very controversial pick here in the top 10. I think almost everybody has him top 10, but a lot of people have him at the number 10 spot. I know a lot of people also have him top 3. For me, I think he's more towards the middle, kind of towards the bottom middle. Then number 6, we got Tim Duncan. In my opinion, one of the most underrated players of all time, because I think everyone recognizes he's good. He's in a lot of people's top 10s, but nobody talks about him. Everybody talks about Kobe being a top 3 player when I think Tim Duncan is ahead of Kobe. Then at number 5, we got Larry Bird. Of course, sharpshooter from the Boston Celtics, who for me is really difficult to put. I think 5 is definitely the highest you can go with him, but you could go as low as number 13 or so. And this list was really tough to make now with adding in Steph. Larry Bird's really tough one, but I have him at number 5. Number 4 is going to be Magic Johnson, who I think doesn't get as much credit as a top 5 player all time. Also, a lot of people swapping Kobe for him. Some people even Shaq. Then at number 3, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who does get the respect he wants. And this is where it starts to get controversial for me because I have Michael Jordan at number 2 and LeBron James at number 1. And we won't get too much into that right now because the whole topic of this discussion was more about Steph Curry, ranking him in there. But I just think LeBron, I know people don't say longevity is that important, but he does have that longevity and he continues to play at such a high level for so long. And I think if he keeps this up for 3-4 more years, people are going to have to start putting him at number 1 over Michael Jordan. Now let's just do a quick talk about the Kyrie Irving status. So of course, everyone's talking about if he's going to opt in and play with the Nets for at least one more year before the Nets have to re-sign him. If he's going to opt out and become an unrestricted free agent. And I think the best bet is that he stays and tries to win that championship without LeBron. And of course, everybody's talking about him possibly going to play with LeBron in the Lakers. But I would see him actually playing. I just think that's a little too outlandish and a little bit too fan biased than really getting inside the heads of these players and GMs in the NBA. Then let's go ahead and get into the NBA mock draft I have here. So, of course, last night, all of a sudden, Paolo Banchero jumped up from the most likely number 3 pick all the way to number 1, where Jabari Smith had been way ahead. But I still think the Magic will take Jabari Smith if they're smart, because he's much more of a two-way player than Holmgren and Banchero. And although Holmgren racks up those blocks, he can't guard people as much outside like Smith, who can guard inside and outside and is a more consistent scorer than Holmgren. I do think then at number 2, the Thunder are going to take Holmgren. As a Thunder fan, I'd prefer them to take Banchero because I like the ups. I like the less risky choice in Banchero. Holmgren definitely has more upside, but he's that risky choice. But I do think they'll go with Holmgren because they have so much more time to get other picks as well. I think they know that this is their time to take a risk, and they might take it here. And then, of course, the Rockets have the number 3 pick, and I think they'll go with Banchero. Just these top 3 are so far ahead from everyone else in the class, which is pretty common, of course. Sometimes it's just 2 players, sometimes it's even just 1 that's on a completely different level. This time we've got 3 that are the consensus top 3 picks with just about everybody. Then at number 4, everybody's talking about Jaden Ivey because he probably is the 4th best prospect in this draft, but I think he is just a little bit overrated. I think Keegan Murray is going to go number 4. He's a much better fit for the Kings, and unless they trade down, I think they'll take Keegan Murray. Jaden Ivey just really reminds me of a copy of De'Aaron Fox, who was drafted 5th overall, similar range, however many years ago, I'd guess 5 years ago was when Fox was drafted. But Fox is still in the younger part of his prime after playing just 1 year at Kentucky. And I think they don't want to give him up or try and play Fox and Ivey on the same court together. Which leads me to the Pistons taking Jaden Ivey, who again, kind of similar to Cade Cunningham, but Cade Cunningham's kind of more that taller guy who can also play who can play small forward and point guard. I think it's a little bit of a better fit, and I think with both of them slashing and attacking the basket, they could really turn into a more threatening team. Of course, they've shown that they're not really staying in win now mode right now by trading away Jeremy Grant, which I think is a fairly smart move unless they were going to go and trade for another key asset this offseason to go with likely Ivey and Cunningham and Grant. Number 6, the Pacers. They have a lot to choose from, a lot that could fit in. They're likely going to trade Malcolm Brogdon, but they have Chris Duarte, who had a really great rookie season as a late lottery pick. And I think they're going to go with Shaedon Sharpe, who has a ton of upside. Of course, he's competing against Dyson Daniels and Benedict Mathurin in that guard area, who are all kind of predicted to go through this 6 through 10, with Sharpe possibly going higher with all the upside he has. But nobody's seen him play at Kentucky. But everybody knows how talented he was. He was the number 1 prospect in this draft class that, of course, did have a really great top 3. So I think the Pacers will take a chance on him here. And then at 7, I think the Trailblazers will go with Dyson Daniels over Mathurin. the Trailblazers, I think Daniels will go. He can be a little bit of a combo guard there with Dame Lillard. They got Jeremy Grant now. They got Josh Hart to play that small forward, and I could see them kind of taking this to be not a taking Dyson Daniels in order to help their team be not really a championship winning team, but a playoff team, which they weren't this year when, of course, Dame struggled with injuries. But if he's back to his max potential or close to that this year, along with Daniels and Grant and Hart, I think they can be much improved. Then the Pelicans at number 8, of course, everybody's talking about them, about really possibly becoming one of the top teams in the league this year, and they got this top 10 pick via the Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, and Anthony Davis trade that was made however many years ago. And I think they'll take Benedict Mathurin with it. I think with him up there at the shooting guard, it does move CJ McCollum to the point guard, which we hadn't seen as much, but he started playing it after the trade from the Blazers to the Pelicans this year, and I think he's capable of it. And I think that's kind of a deadly duo. And then you also have Ingram, who's probably still your best scorer, or Zion, who could overtake him if he gets to if he starts developing to his max potential that got him that number 1 overall pick. At the number 9 slot, I think the Spurs go with Jeremy Sochan out of Baylor. Very solid defensively, can rebound really well. And I think he's going to fit in well with the Spurs team. I think they could be a contender to go chase after DeAndre Ayton. And I think that'd be a great combo with DeJounte Murray. And then you have Sochan here along with possibly Devin Vassell reaching his potential, who they drafted last year in the lottery. But if Benedict Mathurin drops down to this 9 slot, I think the Spurs definitely take him, which if Mathurin does drop, it's likely because Sochan gets picked earlier instead. So it'd make more sense. Anyways, he'd be gone. But I think Mathurin's an even better fit for them, working there up top, where shooting guard's a little bit more of a question mark for them right now when they do have Keldon Johnson at that power forward position. And finally, at number 10, I think the Wizards go with Johnny Davis over AJ Griffin. Johnny Davis just had a little bit more production during college, was one of the best players in the nation. And of course, AJ Griffin was on a more stacked team with more scorers and has more of an athletic upside. But I think the Wizards could really use Johnny Davis, and he'll be a good fit with them, even no matter what Bradley Beal does this offseason. So let's go ahead and hop into the quick MLB weekly recap here. The Blue Jays beat the White Sox 9-5, led by Bo Bichette in his grand slam. The Yankees came back to beat the Rays 5-4, with Aaron Judge hitting his league-leading 26th and 27th homers that game. Probably the best hitting outfielder in the league right now this season, of course, with Mike Trout still being in the league, and Ronald Acuna, Mookie Betts, those kind of guys. The Braves knocked off the Giants 4-3 with some more stellar relief from A.J. Minter. A 4-run rally in the 9th led the Guardians to their 11-10 victory over the Twins. They were able to rally in that one, and they beat the Twins 6-5 in an 11-inning battle the day before. The Cardinals beat the Brewers 5-4 in a huge divisional battle. The Cardinals used that win to overtake the Brewers for the NL Central Division lead. All season long, look for those two teams contending for it, as the other 3 teams in the division are 3 of the weakest in baseball. Ohtani strikes out career high 13 batters in the Angels' 5-0 victory over the Royals, able to bounce back after getting upset by the Royals before, and putting Ohtani on the mound was just enough to do so. Great outing from Ohtani, and we hope to see more of that in the future from a fan favorite in the MLB. We'll keep up with the little bit of the baseball trend here. The College World Series, which I've been watching very closely. We went over kind of our predictions last week. Did not exactly go how I was expected, especially with Oklahoma going 3-0 to secure their spot in the title game. But I was right about Arkansas being the underdog. Of course, they're extremely talented, but they didn't have the best record this year. Arkansas making their way through the Super Regional and then into the World Series and succeeding in the World Series with a win last night over Mississippi and Ole Miss will battle Arkansas again tonight in an elimination game to decide who plays OU. Arkansas won very easily yesterday. Well, actually, no, that was the game before when Arkansas played Auburn, I think it was. Arkansas dominated Auburn, but no, last night is actually extremely close. Arkansas won 3-2. I remember this now. It was the bottom of the ninth. Arkansas was up 3-1. Leadoff single to the guy they had pitching before. So then Arkansas brought in their ace reliever, Brady Tygart, who then walked and then plunked a guy. So bases loaded, no outs. They go to their next reliever who comes in this situation. He gets 2 outs before the Ole Miss leadoff hitter hits a ground ball in kind of the left field gap that battles the shortstop for Arkansas is able to get to, but he can't make a play on it. He's just able to stop it and prevent 2 runs from coming in. So bases loaded again now, 2 outs, 3-2. And the Arkansas pitcher, I think his name was Morris, continued his incredible pitching and was able to get the out in the big moment with a line out to left field. And then, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Stanley Cup here. Games 1 and 2, obviously, the Avalanche destroyed the Lightning, who I don't know if we talked about this last week, but going into it, the Lightning were my favorite to win it, of course, being, if not the best, one of the best in the league every single year the past couple of years. But in Game 2, the Colorado won by 7-0, which was just incredible to me. As I don't watch a ton of hockey, but I'm smart enough to know that that's pretty crazy. And I watch enough that I've never seen that score, much less in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Lightning were able to bounce back with a high-scoring blowout of their own, winning 6-2 in Game 3. And then we finally had our first kind of closer game. Game 1 was 3-1, I think, Avalanche. But Colorado struck again with a 3-2 win in overtime of Game 4. Really fun game to watch. And then I think Colorado's going to win it in 5. Just with Lightning winning one game when the Avalanche just struggled a little bit. And then the Colorado Avalanche have been able to play their game for the 3 other games. And I think they'll just continue that. They won it badly. The Lightning don't win it as bad. They already have this Stanley Cup final award. Most of their players and their team do. So I think Avalanche are going to take it in this next game, which I believe is tomorrow. I'm not sure on that. But anyways, Colorado in 5. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.